What's good, fam? You tuned in today to the Ambition Show podcast because we are addressing a major concern that the ambitious people just like you, and hell, I've been here myself, often are challenged with. And more than ever this year in 2025, we are hearing this, we're seeing this more than ever because of the economic uncertainty and the challenges that people are having. Today, we're breaking down one of the realest crossroads every creator and aspiring entrepreneur faces, but right now it's more prevalent than ever. When does a side hustle stop being a hobby and start becoming an asset? When do I take that side hustle and make it my full time? Based on what we're seeing right now, your side hustle may not become just a second line of income, right? Or your primary source of income. It could become your only source of income. And it may need to become your only source of income. And this challenge is not unique to new graduates. It's not something that's just coming up to retirees. No matter where you are in your career, in your professional stages, no matter where you are in your age group, no matter what stage of life you're in, this is a real challenge. And this is a real thing that a lot of us are facing. How do you take your side hustle full time and make sure it pays the bills? Make sure it is not just your dream, but your reality and your source of income, primary source of income or sole source of income, but you have created it, not someone else's. You created this. You brought it to reality. So today we're going to get to the bottom of it. We're going to get into all the ins and outs of how to successfully take that side hustle and transition it and help it grow into your full time. Let's get it. What's good, everybody? Look, I know the grind. Juggling your 9 to 5, your family, your inbox. Good Lord, the inbox. We all know about the inbox, right? Also, your, hey, can you help me real quick? Favors. We all got them. Friends, things happen, things come up. We get plenty of them on a phone call, text message, DM, email. And you want to be there for the people you care about the most. That's why holding down a full-time job and a side hustle becomes so difficult. Your time is restricted, 9 to 5, or, if you're lucky, it's 9 to 5, right? It could be 7 to 7. Hey, that's a reality for a lot of people. The 9 to 5 is out the window. Old school banker hours, not even bankers work them dang on hours anymore, okay? The door might be open for you and me to go and get our money from 9 to 5, but that banker might be in there from 8 to 7. I have seen it. I know they're working. Believe me, I know they're working. I'm not trying to say they're doing something nefarious or bad. You're working 2 jobs, sometimes 3. Then your hustle. And the hustle keeps you going. The reason why you hustle is because you have a passion for this. Now, it might not be the specific career or profession. It may be just the thrill of building something, right? That's where a lot of people come into this whole idea of serial entrepreneurship. But it's got to pay some bills. It's got to be a return on investment somewhere, right? A lot of this is happening on fumes at midnight with a lot of caffeine. Caffeine, my friend, my beautiful, beautiful friend. We know how it is. You look at your computer screen. You look at your desk. Got a cup of coffee right there. Canva open on one tab. Adobe open on another tab because, you're playing around and seeing which features are better. Then don't forget, you got to look, do market research, tests. So you have social media open. You have your email marketing client open. Maybe you're working with MailChimp. You're like, no, let me check out the prices. Let me compare some prices. Let me compare some things. So then you go over to Capterra. You start looking at different software. What's cheaper? What's more affordable? It's all over the place. When at the end of the day, what is the goal? The goal is freedom, or the concept of freedom. The goal is ownership. The goal is the freedom that ownership you think could bring you. And that is to control your options. Hey, I have a side hustle. I want it to be my main. But you know what? I don't mind that being my main form and source of income. Maybe I'll have a part-time as well, so I have another revenue stream. But with my main work, I can build out passive income. See, that's what you're going around. That's what you're thinking. And that's what's bouncing around in your head as you build all this stuff out. And we have to think back that the most successful full-time entrepreneurs, they didn't start with the fancy office. Many of them, most of them, the ones like us, didn't start off with a bunch of investor money. They couldn't just go down the street to Silicon Valley. They didn't know a bunch of people at private equity firms and investment banks. Or maybe they didn't even start out with millions of followers, because most of them started out before we even had the concept of social media. We had social groups, but not social media, which we'll get into properly leveraging. They started in garages, the bedrooms, just like you, late night shifts, working at their cubicle, on their lunch break, on their side hustle. And they had doubts, but they didn't stall, they didn't stop. They moved anyway, and they kept challenging themselves. But the key was growth, consistent growth. Now, I will call this out real quick. A lot of people, they come up with that concept of the entrepreneur working and grinding. They get that picture of Jeff Bezos in the office with the makeshift Amazon's. I'm not referencing that, okay? Because a lot of you aren't working from that point. We're talking about before you even get to that point. Right? You're not the former CEO of a failed.com. You're not the former head of a board of directors or initial investor on a major company and just lost all your money in that company. Because see, that's the whole concept. That goes back to that concept of when I had $1 million before, I can know how to get it back. And that's true. It's actually easier for that to happen. We're talking about that stage where you're working your 9 to 5, you working for your 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, maybe 100, maybe even 200,000 a year. And I'm not knocking anybody. But you're working for it. And your goal is to transition what gets you through the extra 6 hours of the day. Yes, sometimes that you're working outside of the work you just finished and taking time away from your family. And taking time away from even being outside and having some fun because you're building towards something. We're talking about those people, you and me. Give you some examples and give you some good examples of what I would consider virtual mentors. And we touched this concept a couple episodes ago where we talked about how mentors can come from different places and how you should always have your ear open to mentors and be available for a mentor. And I mean be available to where you're going to share, because mentor is a two-way street. Just like with business, it's give and take, but it's also about bringing value, right? Not just taking. And you have to make yourself available. You got to make yourself vulnerable to mentorship. So I would always say start off with a virtual mentor. That's how one time it was actually brought to me that way, and I thought that was a really great concept. Sarah Blakely, perfect example, right? The founder and inventor of Spanx. Now, keep in mind, we're talking about people who were working, had to work, couldn't just stop, right? So they're working as they are selling. They're working as they're building up their network. They're working as they bring in the development team. They're bringing in the research and development. They're bringing in the manufacturing. They're bringing in the marketing. She was selling fax machines door to door. Okay, yes, let's hold up. For y'all who don't know what the fax machine is, I know we getting rid of them. But that thing was powerful for a lot of people. And to think that we actually had door-to-door salesmen for these things. Heck, I was just at a vintage store during the Vintage Day, right, festival, and I saw an old set of encyclopedias. There were people who sold those door-to-door as well. That's the grind. That's the grind you're on right now. She took her own money, built a network by selling, built a network by reaching out to people, built a network by connecting with other business owners. You're going to start seeing the theme here, people. Took her own money, though, and still invested into Spanx and developed the first proof of concept, which is what it takes. Ben Francis, give you another one. Delivering pizzas while learning to sew gym clothes in his parents' garage. See, this is what I'm talking about. Not his garage. His mama, his daddy. And ain't no knocking on that, because the man still had a job. And that side hustle became Gymshark. All over the internet, all over social media. Building, developing, progressing skill set while building out his business. Sophia Amoruso. Working as a security guard in flipping vintage clothes on eBay. Then she built out Nasty Gal, which blew up as an online fashion powerhouse. Once again, social media, leveraging the tools that you have, not necessarily paying for ads right off the bat, identifying an organic marketplace, an actual community around what you sold and what you did, but still holding down a full-time job, still working and building as they progress. Once again, going back, broken record. I know I am. There's a theme here. Michelle Phan, YouTube makeup tutorials. Then turn that concept to Ipsy, beauty subscription box. Focusing on what you love to do, what you enjoy the most, leveraging what technology is there, what platforms are there, and building from there. And being a part of that community. Optimizing that relationship with the community. Leveraging that relationship with the community. Building out a brand. What we can take from these great examples is that, number one, know your marketplace. Know what the needs are. Know what the needs are. Provide a solution for the need. In other words, don't create a solution and then try to find the problem. And what often happens is we see, number one, I'm already a part of that community. Sarah Blakely was looking for something that fit and felt better as she went door to door and shopped. Sarah Blakely was looking for something that fit and was more comfortable and felt better as she sold door to door, but as she worked day to day. There was a real problem there that she wasn't the only person dealing with this. Hundreds of thousands, if not millions of women were troubled with this exact same problem. Same thing with Nasty Gal and Sophia Amoruso. The idea is I'm already a part of this network. I'm already a part of this community. I like doing this already for myself, and I'm meeting other people who are interested in as well. How can I provide something better for them? Same thing goes for Michelle Phan. If you're a part of a community, you're a part of a network, you're part of this already, you can find easily the problems. Corporations spend billions of dollars on this every single year, just trying to find the problems that they can solve. All right, they may not spend billions of dollars every year on that portion, but overall in their marketing, it comes out to billions of dollars. But they have a lot of man hours. They have a lot of millions of dollars going into research and development. What do people want? But you, as a member of that community, you have a leg up on it. Which means your side hustle is that passion that has already identified a problem. And that's the very first stage of what you're going to grow into. And you could take examples from these virtual mentors to level up your skill set and develop what that solution could be to solve those problems for people just like me. And these aren't fairy tales. You could take these as blueprints. So let's walk through the real steps, the moves you need to start making when you have already established and identified the problem in the community, and my passion to keep providing that solution or to develop a better solution for those problems. Because the opportunities are all around you. And this is the best opportunity to take that hustle and turn it into a real business. We'll come back, we'll get into the game plan of how to do just that. All right, welcome back, y'all. The game plan. We all know the often quoted, and just to be fair, often misquoted saying, a goal without a plan is just a wish. Typically, people change that up and they make it a goal without a plan is a dream or just a dream. But the original quote, a goal without a plan is just a wish. And to be honest with you, I just learned that in the last few weeks. So I was in the same boat as you. It's by famous French writer, poet, journalist, and aviator. That's right, aviator. Forgive me if I'm going to butcher this. I am doing my best. Please be very kind in the comments. And if you're not going to be kind in the comments, at the very least, be bold enough to post a proper pronunciation. Quote is by Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. All right, that's as far as I got because I never took French. I took Spanish and Italian. Go fig, right? And really what a lot of people attribute this quote to is, of course, typically we see it as, well, if I have a dream and I have the passion, I can see it through. But the statement reminds us that direction is needed to help us identify our goals, to get real about what we want, and navigate the path to our goals. Makes sense. He was an aviator, right? Kind of fits. This also challenges us to move beyond merely thinking about what we want, because we know how we get it today. I'm thinking about doing this. I'm thinking about doing that. He ain't doing nothing. Not a thing at all. It's crazy. I came from the French accent to that, right? Nothing. Go figure. But instead of taking action, we talk about the things we think about we want in life, or the things we are thinking about taking action on, instead of taking proper steps in progression. The statement challenges us. It forces us to progress towards achieving what we say we want. Take it like this. Dreams become achievable and realistic goals through planning and consistent action. We make them real when we make a plan. So let's say you have that side hustle right now, or you're thinking of the side hustle to start. Remember, you're thinking about it, you're not taking action. Here's a game plan to write down, and this can help you in either stage. That's why the plan may have to change and, slightly shift based on where you're at. The goal doesn't change. So by making that plan, you're making it realistic that you will reach this goal. You got to start somewhere. So whether you have 15 clients, you have no customers, you have an actual facility for your side hustle, putting this plan into place can help you identify, is that side hustle ready to be a full-time? What side hustle should I look into and should start to make it my full-time? Or better yet, I already have the side hustle going and I have a full-time. Do I need to make my side hustle part-time? A plan and a course of action can assist you. And that's what this is designed to do. Validate the business, not just the idea. That's the first step. Remember, we're not talking about a dream. And what we're thinking about doing. We're talking about something that has to get done. Why does it have to get done? Once you determine that with those very first steps, we talked about transitioning your passion, identifying what the problem is and coming up with a solution. Okay, but is it actually going to solve it? This is how we validate the business. This is how we validate the idea. Is it actually going to solve the problem? Is it actually connecting with an audience? Right now, once again, if you already have that side hustle, is it selling? Sell one thing to one person. Get feedback. Literally. That's literally proof of concept. You develop it, you create it, you sell it. Can it sell? Does it resonate? Does it connect? Get that feedback as soon as possible. Once you have that proof of concept established, once you have an understanding of that feedback, and once again, if this is already a business that's in place, how many customers do you have? Are you getting their feedback? Are you getting not the reviews, but are you getting them saying, hey, you know what? This could be better. This can be great. I like this, but don't like that. If you are already at the stage where you're in business, The next step, you might be able to skip. But if it's not a real business, you definitely want to make sure step 2 is taken care of before you go any farther. But the very first thing we want to do is validate that business and validate that idea. Validate the solution we've come up for a problem. Is there a problem? And if you haven't identified that problem, you got to find it. Not for the solution. You got to find the problem that you're going to create a solution for. Remember, we're not going to reverse the whole thing here because that's how you get into more trouble. And if you already have a facility, you already have a storefront, you already have a website, you already have those businesses or that side hustle kind of working in the background, maybe there's a reason why it's not selling because you are satisfying or solving for a problem that isn't really there. You just saw somebody else do it and you're thinking, hey, that works for me. But you got to have a passion for it. That's why it goes from the very beginning. That's why we're going back to the beginning. We're talking about the virtual mentors. They were part of those communities and they identified problems that were already there and created inventive ways or unique ways or just changed up what was already there to make a new solution for the problem. The second stage is make it real. Make it real by putting it on paper. You get the business plan and you set up the legal structure of your business. Yes. Making it real. You want to be flexible. Because if you're trying to turn this into a real business, not, once again, we're taking it from side hustle to business. You're trying to turn this into a real business. You want to protect yourself. You want to protect your family. You want to protect the assets that you do have. Most important, you want to legitimize yourself in the eyes of every other potential partner, vendor, and customer. How many people do we know who say, oh yeah, I do this on the side. I got this, I do that. I know a guy that does that. We know all that stuff. We hear it all the time. And then you ask them what's their email and they give you a Gmail or a Yahoo. And you ask them, well, how do I pay you? And they're like, oh, I don't know about the invoice. You can just give me some cash and write on a piece of paper. So no, we're talking about real business here. Remember, the idea is to transition it from a hustle to a business. The idea is to transition from a side hustle to a business. And keep in mind, like if it's a hustle, I'm gonna be real with y'all. It can stay a little messy, right? Because you're not looking for this to be how I'm paying for a house. You're not looking for this to be necessarily how my kids are going to college or what I'm going to pass down to my children or how I'm going to go get a business loan. Sadly, the conversation I've had with more clients than anything, this isn't the most, but it's probably second most, is when I'm telling them you need to establish a bank account in your business name so you can start building business credit. And then people look back 2-3 years and they're like, man, I should have did this. I want to go for a bank loan. Well, 3 years ago, if you started that, you would actually have a track record in that bank account. And you can go to that bank and say, hey, look what I've been doing. You can go to a vendor. You could potentially even get a private loan from another organization. You have to take it seriously. Setting up the business structure, LLC, limited, whatever it's going to be, getting that bank account, acquiring your EIN, and develop what that brand on paper is going to look like. And that goes into your business plan. Here's my corporate structure. You just filled out the corporate structure of your business just that quick. You filled out a portion of the marketing already when you establish and validate the business and got the customer feedback. You're building out your business plan as you go. Now, let's say you're at the stage once again where maybe you've already established some assets. Are you tracking your income? Once again, tracking your income goes back to if I can look good on paper and validate my business, not my hustle, my business to others. You can easily use a tool like QuickBooks, but then also if you're just starting out, a simple spreadsheet just tracking what you do. And that's why setting up that bank account is going to be so essential because you can just pull from there. Make sure all your transactions are going through that bank account. All your transactions are going under your business name. All your transactions are going towards your business, not your hustle. And Reinvest. Don't flex. Don't show off. Reinvest. Right? People do this all the time where they post up all this great stuff on Instagram. Oh, I'm traveling here, or I bought this, or I bought that. No, invest into a system. I brought up QuickBooks. Level up. That first year, maybe you're doing everything out of straight spreadsheet. And then the next year, you invest in QuickBooks. That first year, maybe you do have to work off the Gmail because you just started out your business. But then you invest, build that website, get your domain, and now you have 2 or 3 emails. One for you, one for an assistant. You leveled up. And now that's an expense that you can then go towards. I'm not trying to give you tax advice. I'm just saying that's an expense. And it shows that your business is progressing. And one of the first things you do is when you get paid, you reinvest in your company. But you also, right after that, you got to invest. Or I look at it as investing in the future, but you might not look at it. Just save. Why don't you have a savings account for your business? Level up the skills of you and your team members. There's ways to invest without showing off. People think awareness and attention and notoriety is success. Well, if that's what you wanted, you could be successful doing some stupid stuff and never get paid for it. You could be very rich and very wealthy and turn that hustle into a great business and a great lifestyle for your family, and no one ever knows your name. It's very easy to do that. A lot of people do it all the time. Remember, invest, reinvest, but don't show off and flex. It's not about that. Plan your escape route. Now, I know this sounds a little weird, but keep in mind, your goal at some point is to leave the full-time position, or at least make it to where that full-time position is not your sole form of income, your primary form of income, or source of income at all. Set a revenue goal. This is why planning is important. Set a revenue goal. How much do I need to cover all my expenses? How much do I need to cover all my expenses and reinvest? How much do I need to cover all my expenses, reinvest, and have a nice rainy day personal savings going? Where I can reinvest in my 401k. I can put it into my Roth IRA. I can put it into my savings account. I can invest and purchase a piece of property and use that real estate for not only my business, but also my family. Set a revenue goal that replaces your job income, or at the very least, just covers the essentials. Sadly, I know a lot of people who are in positions where they have started that side hustle. They've gone out, bought a facility, or they're renting a facility. They have employees. They have all this stuff, but they have to stay at their full-time position. I didn't say it because they have a full-time position. No, it makes perfect sense, actually, because you want multiple sources of income. But keeping in mind that full-time position, if that goes, they can't keep money going into their side hustle because they're treating a business model as a side hustle. Don't do that. Don't run out and get an office space. Don't run out and get a bunch of employees. Don't run out and get a facility. First, get it moving to where it is a sustainable business and you can move forward. But you're moving forward, meaning you're progressing, meaning you have a plan of what that goal is, what you're progressing towards. You're not just progressing going off into the ocean. You're progressing, no, I need to get across this mug. I need to go to the other continent. You know what I'm saying? Because maybe the goal is I want to get my business over there. Who knows? So what is your escape plan? This actually happens a lot with startups. A lot of people outside don't know this, or I should say outside of working with startups and small businesses that are looking at some type of venture or some type of outside investment beyond a traditional bank loan. But a lot of times this happens with what's your exit plan? Is some of the advice they'll be getting from an incubator or, maybe even a firm that's working with private investment and they're trying to get you in like, hey, how do you guys want to leave this company? You really don't want to be the CEO of this. You just wanted to create it and sell it. And that's what a lot of serial entrepreneurs do. And if that's you, that's great. What is your escape route? What is your escape plan? It's the same thing. You notice it didn't change. It didn't change with the fact that you need one. The only thing that changed was you're going from I'm escaping full time, starting my own, and now I'm starting my own, getting it established, getting it up there, revving it up, and selling it and moving on to the next thing. Everyone should have a plan, some form of exit strategy. It is a part of the mission. It's your overall mission. It's like your personal mission statement. Now start building your brand. And you notice I'm focusing on the brand normally and everything else I'm talking about, but this is coming closer towards the end, and there's a reason why. If you haven't built a foundation, it's going to be a little tough to do anything, right? It's going to be tough to get anything off the ground to where, not to say you won't have challenges, but to where it's sustainable and to where it's actually not making you give up. Let's just be real, because it happens all the time, burnout. But a plan and a course of action can assist you with, man, this is a tough road. Man, this is a challenge. But it brings it back home. We're not talking about just a logo. We're talking about real value. I brought it from the very beginning. What's that problem that you're solving? What's that solution that you're providing people that need it? Not that a solution isn't there. You just probably have a better solution. Tell your story. Were you the door-to-door salesperson that looked for something that was more comfortable and that'll help you, that you knew hundreds of thousands of other, potentially even millions of women around the world needed and were looking for, but nobody was providing it? Are you that person on YouTube? You're passionately sharing what you love to do every single day, but you're hearing about some of these products aren't good enough, or they're not targeting our audience enough, or they don't make shades that go with our skin tone, or they don't make products, they don't make items that are better for my children. Maybe, just maybe, you are a developer. You're a software designer. You're a web developer. And you know, man, if they just make one app, one plugin to fix this, I could build a whole business around it. I just gave you the story without the names. I just gave you the story of 7 people that we could throw at you right now. The fact is, when you have a passion for something, it's easy for you to identify those problems. It's easy to identify where you can provide that solution. And then you can start sharing that progress. Like I said, you're not about flexing. It's about, hey, I'm going out to a factory right now to meet people, to develop a product. I am going to meet with a potential business partner to work on research development. I am working towards building something big. That's not a flex. That's work. You show them the work. But you can also teach. You can also entertain. You can show people the progress. Just got off a call. Really funny. I got off a call with a new client. And she was talking about how she's opening up a facility. Right? This is her first storefront. She's been online for a little while now. She wants to get the whole website changed. That's why she's coming over to us. But she's like, I want to start, a storefront, and she's working on it right now. So they're doing the work, they're remodeling, they're renovating. It's an old building that they're updating. And I said, oh, well, where are the progress pictures? Well, I don't take progress pictures. I said, that's one of the best things you can do online right now. Show people that you're working towards it. She's taking it from her home business and building out a storefront. That's the story that needs to be shown and told. And you know what you probably don't know what I'm going to say, but I'm going to say it anyway. And this can go part of your marketing strategy and your business plan. Progress pictures. Post them up on Instagram. Post them up on Facebook. Post them on TikTok. Well, you can post them on Facebook. Probably ain't going to see them. We know that. But that's a whole other thing. Post them on Instagram. Post them on Pinterest. Post them on TikTok. Get out there. Share your story and your progress. Last 2, automate or delegate what you can. Hey, this is why I just brought up my new client, right? She's not a web designer. That's not her thing. She needs a web designer. When you get to a certain point, and I'm all for people doing what they got to do when they start off. If you can't afford a professional, I always say that, go for it right away. But you start where you got to start. When you get to that point where you're like, hey, I got to focus on building out a facility. I have to focus on onboarding 2 new employees. I don't have time for web design. I don't have time for SEO. I don't have time for a new logo, right? To do this all on my own. I know there's some great tools out there. And if I'm working with a team that can help me, or if I'm working with a team that can work with those tools that I'm more familiar with, great. Start small. Nothing wrong with this. Use templates. Use the tools, like I always suggest, use the tools like templates and some basics where it gives you a framework to start off with and you can customize as you need. Then work with freelancers and contractors. That's why I've always focused on working with small businesses, because I know the time crunch that they're in. And I definitely know the fact that they don't have the time to dedicate as much as they would like to this project. So you need a little bit more one-on-one hand holding, if you will. But that's not a hand holding as in I understand they need that one-on-one relationship and that one-on-one dedication. And then if you can bring on full-time, great. If you can bring on the services, great, full-time, fantastic. But you can focus on buying back some of your time to focus on getting this business off the ground or taking it to the next stage and transitioning from a hustle to a full-time position and full-time corporation. And then finally, keep showing up, even when it's quiet. And this is the one that gets a lot of people, and this is why that plan is so important. Momentum comes from consistency. People think about this all the time. They're like, oh, well, I just want to post and hopefully somebody will see it. Oh, I just want to maybe make a sale, then I'll slow down. No. You have to be consistent. You need that momentum. That's right. I said it. You need that momentum. You need that push. Even when the likes, the shares, the comments are low, you keep going. With a plan, you can identify, is my plan working or not? Like I said, the plan could change. The goal doesn't. The destination doesn't. But if you have a plan, you have a course of action, and you know where that course of action needs to be redirected, or you went off the course, but you don't know that if you don't have a plan in place. Pitch even when the inbox is dry. Send out the pitch, send out the proposal, make those sales calls. Post. Because when people come back, this is the one that gets people the most. When people start looking for you, especially when it comes to vendors, investors, and partners, hey, I'm calling out right now. It's happened to me. Where they're like, I don't see nothing. Looks like you haven't been doing anything. And you're like, man, if I just been posting every day, even if the post was reaching 2 people, right? That makes you think about it. Keep showing up. Be present. Keep pushing. And if you have that plan in place, you can go back and reflect and say, did the plan work or not? And I know what you're thinking. But Aaron, I don't have the time to do all this. Yeah, I hear that a lot. But let me tell you, nobody finds the time. They trade for it. Less scrolling, less Netflix, fewer favors, clean out that inbox. Dedicate time to making that plan. Because you don't need more time. You need more intention. What is the goal and how do I intend to reach it? Because the side hustle is nice, but I want this to be my full time. I want this to be my main source. I want this to be my bread, my butter, but most importantly, I want this where I can pass on to my kids, or I can just showcase for myself that I built something. It's not necessarily for other people, it's about you. When we come back, I'm not going to eat, but I'm just saying, when we come back, close it out. All right, welcome back, everybody. You're not just building a business, you're building a future that you own, right? That's the goal. It's a challenge, but that's a goal from side hustle to a full-time position, for a full-time actual business. Successfully grow that side hustle, right? And transition it to a business. This isn't about quitting your daytime job and quitting your job tomorrow. It's up to you how it fits, but that's why a plan is helpful, because then you have an exit strategy, you have a plan of action, you have a course of action. You take those steps and you can build out a business plan on top of that. It's about planting the seeds daily so your hustle has roots to grow. It grows strong enough for you to stand on. It grows strong enough to stand on its own and becomes its own business. Taking a story from Sarah Blakely, Ben Francis, Michelle Fons, and many others. I brought up quite a few, but looking at what it takes to say, hey, I'm going to have that daytime job and I have the side hustle right now, but it doesn't have to stay that way if I don't want it to be that way. Because a side hustle, you're clearly putting your passion, your effort into it. So why not take the actual intention to make it into something greater? Doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the next Amazon. Maybe you don't want that. You just want it to where this is how I earn my livelihood. This is something I built from scratch, and I'm proud of to say, hey, I built it from my passion. I built it for my community. I built it for your family or whatever legacy you may want for yourself. So the real question isn't, can I do this? The real question comes back to, how bad do you want to stop asking permission to live the life on your terms? Because that's really what it comes down to. Living the life that you own and you control fully. Which leads us to what to read in the book of the episode. By Chris Guillebeau. Now, he has quite a few books out there. But the book I felt that fit this perfectly, because our side hustle could have been, out of necessity. We need a couple of extra $100, a couple $1,000, maybe pay some bills or to take care of a family emergency, and we didn't have a savings. That's where the majority of people of the world are in. Okay, let's stop making it like it's obscure or something that's not common. Many of us in that situation, and that's where a lot of people's side hustle comes from. That their full-time position is not taking care of all their bills, is not taking care of all their necessities and their essentials. Chris Guillebeau's book, The $100 Startup. Reinvent the way you make a living, do what you love, and create a new future. If you ask me, those are basically the three pillars of the whole freaking episode we just went through, right? It makes perfect sense. And that's why when I found it, I initially was thinking, well, hopefully one day I have an episode for this. When I went back into the different books, and let me tell you, that's thank God for electronic books, because honestly, I could not carry everything around. I have comic books, and then I have trade paperbacks. I have hardcovers. Yes, I have a comic book collection. We have all gone through this before. But it's like I would not be able to carry these around. So I would have to dig through the crates, as they say, or dig through the shelves. This one was right in the list. And I remember when I purchased it, funny enough, it wasn't necessarily that it was something I was reading for me, because it wasn't at that point, which was kind of a good thing, right? It was more so just saying what other people, what's their takes that are out here. Because so many different concepts and so many ideas. In Chris' book, I think from a perspective of an entrepreneur, but the person who may not feel that they're really an entrepreneur. There's some of us who are like, I've been an entrepreneur since day one. And that's why I keep going back to this necessity thing. But a lot of us are necessarily in a position where, hey, I just did this because I needed some extra money. But I enjoy it. So I didn't know I had this entrepreneurial spirit, This book goes a little deeper and helps you kind of address that. Like, hey, maybe that traditional job, that was just, kind of for the time and where everybody wanted you to go, but that really wasn't for you. And now, because of what you have available in technology, what you have, and you're accessible to not only markets, but also resources, you can make things faster, easier, and actually cheaper, and build a full-fledged small business. Keep it in mind, if your ultimate goal is to have a facility, if your ultimate goal is to have restaurants and a storefront, yes, that's going to take significant investment as you go forward. But you got to start somewhere. And sometimes it's that simple plan that's missing. You may sell a plate here, you may sell a cup of coffee there, you may sell a bag of coffee beans here, but you want to create real value. You want to define your customer demographics and identify what problem that's solving. Yes, there's maybe a bunch of cafes in your neighborhood, a bunch of restaurants. What helps you stand out? What helps make you and differentiates you? What helps you stand out and differentiates you from your competitors? There's even a step-by-step, basically a one-page business plan within this text that you can start to build out, which is fantastic if you're first launching your product or you're trying to identify how can I really build on that product, right? Maybe I've identified the problem, but I don't know exactly what that solution is. That's why I mentioned this book is actually great for people at different stages and even in different business types. But identifying the best way for you to start out as lean as possible to get it off the ground. Great for an entrepreneur, a side hustler, freelancer, even a startup founder, right? Doesn't matter. That's why I felt this was a great example. That's why I thought this was a great resource based on our topic today. If you want to start a micro business, because really that side hustle isn't a full-fledged business just yet. Let's build it to the micro business. Take it to a small business. Do it in stages. Don't overwhelm yourself, but build that course of action, that path to growth. See, a lot of people want to go 0 to 100 and they burn out at 25 or 30. They don't even get to 50. You know why? Because they went so hard so fast that they just fizzled away. I mentioned this in the past episode. I stopped using the term grinding, even though I understand where it really comes from. And I understand that, especially when I was in college and I was first starting out with things, I was like, yeah, I'm up working late. I'm grinding, I'm working hard and all this thing. But then you got to think about that concept again. It's like when you grind something, what does it become? It becomes dust, right? Grinding a diamond, grinding an avocado seed. And I bring that up because that mug is tough as hell. The idea is to break something, to break it down. Something that's strong, something that's solid. Do you really want to grind yourself into a ground? No. And that's what a lot of people are doing right now with side hustles, or they're trying to start a side hustle and they have no goal in sight because they haven't built out that plan. This is a fantastic book to get you started, especially if you're still trying to kick around the idea of what it's going to be. And if you do have the side hustle in mind, to help you develop that plan. Remember, it's the $100 startup, reinvent the way you make a living, do what you love, and create a new future. Fantastic book. Link to the book in the description of this episode. You can catch all of our lists. We now have a full list of the books on Amazon. Feel free to peruse. And once again, I'm looking for those comments because the last 3 episodes, I haven't gotten a comment. I'm going to call it out. I haven't gotten a comment of a new book. Now, I do have a backlog of some books to go over. So I'm just saying that, though. Drop a comment of a book we should cover, because not only can we tailor it to an episode, we can actually make an episode depending upon the book. We can make an episode around it. And the goal here is to share the knowledge, because this book years ago was suggested to me. Like I said, I wasn't in that stage, wasn't in that position really, kind of necessarily needing what I was consuming. But I was like, I'm going to keep this in the back pocket. And I went back and revisited it a few times. Fantastic book. I was happy to share it. And I'm glad I had it in the archives, if you will. Be sure to check out the reading graphics version. That way you could look at the infographic, you look at the PDF, and it's really great visual depictions of some of the formulas and some of the strategies that Chris breaks down. Like more of a visual depiction of the book. It's a great site, and go there, purchasing it from there. You support the show. Thank you guys for all the support that you have given to us over the past year as we are chugging along and we're getting through this season of the Ambition Show. So with that, don't forget to like and subscribe if you like the value and you appreciate the value that we're bringing here. If this hits you, share it with your hustle crew. Share it with the people who are also trying to transition from a side hustle or trying to develop a side hustle because they see what's coming. They see what's going on. It's a lot of uncertainty out here, and they're trying to figure out, well, can that side hustle sustain me or at least help me with, once again, getting some essentials and some bills out of the way? Tag the Ambition Show podcast. Make sure that your friends know where to find us. That way they can come and pick up all these gems as well. This is our podcast. This is for us, for our movement of the ambitious. Make sure you share it out and connect it with your community. So until next time, keep making consistent, bold actions towards your goal. And always stay ambitious. Peace.